Hey guys, welcome back to Forward Energy. I'm Raquel. This is lecture number 2. Thank you guys so much for your support for my first lecture. I really appreciate it. I had no clue how this was really going to start. I just jumped straight in, and the support has been so nice to see. All the reposts, the likes, the comments, some subscribes too. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. Feels so crazy to say. Like, I'm really on this journey. I'm really doing this shit. Um, just wanted to extend my gratitude. I really appreciate it. This work is not exactly easy, and knowing that there's people who are supporting me and rooting for me, it just really warms my heart. It makes me feel like I have some people in my corner. So thank you guys. This lecture is called Reality Check, Pushbacks, Awareness, and Acceptance. So this week has been pretty intense for me. I can't lie. Consuming a lot of this content is very heavy, emotionally tumultuous. I've been going through a lot of stages of grief when it comes to the awareness of the reality that we're in. Because if you really take this seriously, it does change you. It psychologically changes you. It makes you see everything differently, whether by the food you eat, how you act, where you go, what you do. Like it penetrates every aspect of your life, and that's the journey I'm on, and I'm trying to inspire that journey for other people because I know that what's on the other side of this for me is beautiful. And I know that that's going to be the other side for everybody watching this. So I'm trying to conjure that experience from other people so that we can all get to a more beautiful place, because that's what we're intended to do. That's what God wants for us, truly, is to have a beautiful experience on this planet. And I've had a lot of feelings surrounding, like, knowing that the past will never be the present again, that we will never have a lot of things that we had in the past again. And, I'm growing up. I'm 25 years old. My childhood is effectively over. And being aware of that is a pretty trippy experience. And coupling it with also the awareness that the environment is not the same anymore, that there's a lot of ideas of the reality that I used to have as a child that I can't bring with me into the future. It's deep. It runs really deep. So I acknowledge that with my whole heart, that this is not an easy topic. These are not easy topics. They're not. But the fact that you're here means that you care, and it means that you're ready to change. It means that you're ready to embrace something that's amazing. And even though you might not know what it looks like it's kind of like a question mark right now, it doesn't mean that it's not something worth pursuing, and it doesn't mean that it's not something that you can influence to be something that's truly beneficial and amazing for you and whatever you dream of in your life, So in this reality check lecture, there is going to be a lot of pushback, because globally we see a lot of pushback when it comes to environmental awareness, whether it be the lobby groups that pay off the government officials, or corporations that pay off the government officials to fight in their interests and to dictate in their interests. It also means, like, on a psychological level, we have a lot of pushbacks from accepting what this is and what these things truly look like, what environmental collapse, financial collapse, environmental destruction, what those things actually look like is not always the easiest to accept. So there will be a lot of pushback, right? And I watched this video called Protecting the Climate, How the Human Brain Prevents Us from Saving the Planet. And it was really interesting because it talked a lot about the psychology of awareness, the psychology of what environmental awareness is and why we experience pushback in our brains. And a big part of it, number one, is people don't believe what they don't see. It's just a fact. We, especially if you live in a world that has a lot of privilege, in a reality that has a lot of privilege, if you live in Canada, US, UK, Australia, like you live in a society that has been built colonially, you're going to understand that a lot of the experiences firsthand of environmental damage are not going to be experienced by you first, that the global south is actually suffering right now. So although you might not think that this is happening at your doorstep, it is happening at the doorsteps, actually, in America and a lot of places, in those places. But globally, in the South, it's experienced a lot more detrimentally. And that's something that really affects our ability to take this seriously is because we don't believe it until we see it happening right up close to us. And the detrimental effects are kind of hard to see because if we look at our phone and we see ourselves with an age filter on, right? We don't have an emotional connection to that old version of Raquel. Like if I look at myself, I'm not thinking like, oh, there's Raquel with all of her experiences and all the life she lived. No, because it hasn't happened yet. And because we don't have an emotional attachment to that. And that actually is because of a psychological experience that we're having. When we think about the present, we have a lot of activity neurologically in the back of our brain. And it allows us to have certain like sensory associations with the present. So like what we smell, what we see, what we hear, what we touch, it also allows us to have a familiarity with the present. And the activity that happens in the back of the brain is just so much more than when we think about the future or a week from now, a year from now. And that happens in the front of the brain. That neurological activity is way less than in the back of the brain when we think about the present. So I don't want you to think it's just the fact that you're like, oh, I'm this privileged person who's just so unaware, blah, 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 because a lot of people are aware of these things. It's just that there is a psychological aspect to our inability to picture a future where we don't have the reality we have now, right? So this is something that's really hard to push back against. It's an obstacle that everybody is going to have to overcome at some point in their life. But the goal of myself and a lot of the researchers that I follow and research for the sake of these lectures is to get people to take it seriously so that we can start doing preemptive things. So we can start preparing ourselves for the reality to be at our doorstep. And that's really why we're here, is to hopefully change our actions so that when things come, and they will, hate to say it, like I'm sorry, but it's the truth, when they do come, is that we have a heightened awareness of what it means for us and what we can do to survive, you know? So aside from pushback, once we start getting into our awareness, once we start feeling a sense of awareness of what this actually is, what collapse is, what it looks like, what it'll look like for our financial systems, what it will look like for our environmental systems or our agriculture systems, what it will look like for our supply chains. Once we start really becoming aware of that, it psychologically changes you, because if you really take it seriously, it inevitably impacts your psyche. There's no escaping actually taking it seriously. And although there's always going to be an ability to experience the cognitive dissonance and the distractions of the world, like, oh, just watch a movie or just watch a TV show, which, you know, you should have those abilities to just kind of turn it off, because I really don't think that we have the most power individually. Collectively is really where it's at. I think that individually we can make certain choices and actions, yes, but mental health is huge in this. We need the strength of our minds. We need our liberty. We need our health and our wellness to actually be able to confront these things. And if that means you watching some episodes of Game of Thrones, I know I will be tonight. I'm on the last season. Don't spoil it for me. Then that's what it is. It is what it is, you know? Get your peace. Have your peace. Hold it close to you. We also still need to be brave enough to start the conversations, even if we don't know what the answer is, even if we don't know what it means. We still need to be brave enough to have those conversations, to use the awareness to garner more awareness, at the very least, you know? And something that was really inspiring, because a speaker in the documentary Breaking Together by Jem Bendel, somebody said, even if there's one organism in the Amazon that survives because of your work, then it's worth it. And I just thought that was so beautiful, because a lot of this work that I'm doing right now is feeling a sense of like, I need to do more, because if I do more, then things will, like, I just really need to like do. Or it can also be on the contrast. what's the point of doing? There's no point, because this shit's going to hell anyway, and what the fuck is the point? And really, I think the small wins matter the most in these scenarios. They really do. Count them up, and hold them close to you, because that's what matters. They collect and they add up, and you deserve to have the gratification of knowing that the one thing that you do can give you a sense of pride and happiness. You deserve that, right? And the part that I've had a lot of trouble with is the acceptance part of this. I don't think I will be accepting this anytime soon, that we are heading for a collapse and that we're heading for a certain level of suffering globally, because how the fuck do you do that? How do you accept that? How do you come to terms with the fact that you have very little control over where this is going? It's hard. It's hard. The message has to become millions of people will suffer, and we are now in danger of that happening, and we must do everything we can to slow the problem down and hopefully help each other through this, build a community through this, and actually hold each other and heal together through this. Because the only other side of this is us looking at things and being like, wow, we really messed up. We really messed up. We didn't have the healthiest relationship with the environment that we could, or with ourselves, or with each other that we could, that we ignored a lot of the faults and the failures of our society, that we ignored a lot of it for the sake of convenience and keeping the ball rolling and business as usual. There's going to be a level of guilt and shame that comes with that, especially if you live in an empire, and knowing the colonial history that your country has, and like knowing that you benefit from the suffering of people around the world. There's going to be so much guilt and shame that is associated with that. And that is a natural response to this. In one of these documentaries I was watching, there was an elder, his name, oh goodness. His name was Stan Rushworth. So he spoke about how, we have an inherent connection with Mother Earth that we've estranged ourselves from by being in this system, by participating in this system. And it's supposed to feel odd. It's supposed to feel strange and weird. And you're supposed to feel kind of sad and like guilty because of the fact of we've had this really like abusive relationship with the environment for so long. There's an indigenous author and historian, Jack Forbes. He calls it the Wetiko, which means cannibal, which is basically how we have a predatory relationship with the world, because we look at the world as something to reap things from, but that is not sustainable. That has effectively brought us into the world that we're in right now. And once you start realizing that you are part of that, and that you're always going to be a part of that by being alive, that it's not like you can just switch it on and off, that inevitably, as long as the system is existing, is that we are guilty of something. Not only does it give you a sense of like accountability, but it also gives you a little bit of like acceptance in a way, because you're able to acknowledge that you didn't do this. You are a part of this. You have a choice every day to do actions that can offset some of the negative things and negative impacts that you might have, but you didn't strike the hammer, okay? You didn't do this. So just release that and understand that there is a different type of relationship that is not so egocentric that you can have with the world. The idea that we have this like infinite importance of the self, that we have like this inherent importance to the world. Once you release that, I think there's like a really beautiful state of like acceptance that you can get from that. And we're going to talk more about acceptance because this is the journey that I'm on as well, it's hard being young and thinking about these things because I haven't lived that much life to really look back on. A lot of these scientists, they're in their 50s, their 60s, like, you know, they're old. No offense. But it's like I only feel like I was really able to start living truly, well, honestly, because I went to an art high school and because I had like a pretty free experience in high school. I feel like I've been able to live since I was like 15, 16, you know. But truly as an adult, I don't think I've had a lot of autonomy until I was like 19, 20. That's not that long ago. So for them to be speaking about let it go and accept it and blah, blah, it's like, how can I fucking accept it when I just got here? I just got to the party and y'all are trying to fucking wrap this shit up. You know what I mean? That's how it feels. But it also can inform my relationship with the world and my ability to just let it go. Live life, enjoy life, live without the judgment, and actually live as if things will not last forever. Not like the nothing lasts forever, YOLO, like okay, sure, but also in a way that really means reconnecting with your true relationship with this planet and with the creator that you deserve. So I don't think I'll really be able to accept it fully, just because of my fierceness and my desire to liberate myself and other people, and that I feel like that's just going to inform my work always, is that there's a more beautiful future ahead of us that I know we can create. And maybe the older generations are not able to see that because of how much things have changed and how maybe they've seen things so stuck. Like they've tried, they've advocated, they've done the protests, they've done the groups, they've done all these things, that they kind of have this like feeling of we've been there, done that, tried it, and you know. But I believe in the global shift and the consciousness awakening that's happening across the world, that inevitably is going to build societies and realities that are better than now, because it's going to be aligned with the true purpose of the creator, of God, which is liberty, life, abundance, you know. So it's hard to let go. It's hard to accept that we are heading for some form of collapse, and we are heading for a change that is going to be very uncomfortable, but I think it's crucially necessary. It's extremely necessary, because if we don't accept it, how can we build something new? If we don't accept that what's happening right now and what's going on right now is not working, how are we going to find something that can work? So these are all questions to be asking ourselves in these times. One thing that was kind of like a reality check statement that I heard through these is, we cannot continue globalized human civilization without oil. So if we are actually speaking about cutting oil and really getting into a regenerative and sustainable culture and lifestyle, it will not look like right now. The longer we hold on to things, the longer we fight to keep things as they are, just a little bit of tweaks and changes, and the longer we do all that stuff, is the more we prolong the suffering, truly, internally and externally, that we see on the planet and with our communities around the world. So whether you're at the pushback part of your journey and you're still pushing back a little bit, like, oh, this isn't real, like maybe it'll happen in 50 years, like maybe it will, but hopefully you'll be alive in 50 years, right? And also, it's a long journey. It's not just that things go like this. It's a gradual like ripple effect of these things happening that actually creates the change. So it's not like in 50 years things are just going to snap into a different reality. It's a slow transformation that is. So if you're at the pushback point, I understand, I get it. Seeing is believing. Do your research. Look at what's happening in the world, the flooding, the droughts, the suffering. If you really want examples, there's tons. And I'm going to speak more about the direct things that are happening and the tipping points that we know if those lines are crossed, that it is just detrimental to everything on the planet. There's no getting around that. So if we want to kind of open up our awareness in that, I'm here to do that. That's what my goal is with some of my later lectures in the future. If you're at the awareness stage, I know this is hard. This is not something that you want. And I know it's especially for the younger generation, like it's tough having to become aware of these things and watching the videos, doing the research, seeing the news reports, hottest day on record for the, like, seeing those reports is not easy. Me doing this work is not easy. So overall, I understand, but just understand that awareness brings transformation. So there is going to be something beautiful that comes out of this, and just keep that forward energy. Keep looking towards the future, towards what brings you forward in that positive direction. And inevitably, I know that it will be a beautiful thing, right? And if you're at the acceptance, all praises to you. You are just, whether by spirituality or whatever, maybe you've ascended into that position. Whew, good job, because I am having a really hard time accepting that this is the reality for the future. But I look back, I envision myself looking back on my 25-year-old self, maybe when I'm 40, 50, 60, and seeing that this right now was the time that things changed for me. And this is the time that everything transformed for the betterment of my future, right? So acceptance is the goal, but I also feel like you have to kind of like not accept that things are going to be destroyed in order to change things. But we're going to talk a lot about more about that, because there's a couple talks about what that really looks like. There's like 15 benefits of accepting collapse that I watched in a video just before this with Jem Bendel and Karen Perry that were extremely enlightening and heartbreaking as well, that we're going to talk about. So hope you guys learned something today. Hope this was a little eye-opening for you, that this is real. This is something that we need to take seriously, and that that's why this is so important to me. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm happy that you're here.